See?
Okay. So are we on? Okay. Thank you, Felix.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jim Welkos. I'm with the Office of Support Services and Operations here at CMS. Welcome to our series of talks and seminars entitled CMS Talks. These sessions will provide employees with tools, tips, and resources when navigating through periods of change and transition. Today's talk, Transitions in the Workplace, focuses on change in the workplace and how it can cause disruption due to different ways individuals react to change, and how an understanding of the transition process may reduce stress that change can bring. With that, I'd like to introduce Desiree Antonaki. She's one of our EAP counselors and a licensed social worker, and she's here to deliver our presentation.
Good afternoon. As Jim mentioned, my name is Desiree Antonacci, and I am a field consultant here at CMS. And before I start the presentation, Transitions in the Workplace, I wanted to give you a brief overview of your EAP benefits. So first, EAP is a free, confidential resource for all employees, family members, and supervisors. It is a comprehensive program that assists employees, family members, and supervisors in dealing with the day-to-day challenges, personal and professional, that can impact workplace performance. The goal is to work through some of those issues to promote safety, health, and well-being. So transitions in the workplace. It isn't the changes that do you in, it's the transitions. So the one thing that is key throughout this entire presentation is that the only thing that we can count on is that things change. It may seem puzzling then that if things are always changing, why do we have so much difficulty with it? In his book called Managing Transitions, Making the Most of Change, William Bridges stresses that change in and of itself is not necessarily overwhelming. However, because change is situational and external and hopefully leads to a desired outcome, people seem to struggle more with the transition part of the change, which is the internal psychological process that we go through when we react to any given change. Please note that everything that we are talking about today, although it's focused on workplace transitions, can be applied to any change. The objectives for today. We're going to define change and transition. We're going to identify processes of transition. And we're going to discuss approaches and different strategies for managing the transition process. So experiences. What are some of the changes that have been noticed in today's workplace? I have heard different examples that there has been doing more with less. There has been the change of folks coming into work versus telecommuting and vice versa, as well as people transitioning from having office space to cubes. So our feelings as a result of the changes. Some of the feelings that have been a result of some of the changes that I just talked about include feeling sad, ambivalent, disappointed, and even angry. There are also a variety of reactions that one can feel. There's the loss of security, a sense of insecurity as we navigate different changes, and a loss of predictability. There's the loss of competence, where it is exemplified as we are navigating through new tasks that we are not the expert that we once were, and often frustrated by that. There's also a loss of relationships, and the loss of relationships are the people that you used to work with. Sometimes there's a change in the group that you're in, a loss of familiar faces. There's a loss of control, feeling a sense of being imbalanced. And confusion, where do I go? What do I do next? So as you may have gathered by now, you're hearing that changes are external and transitions are an internal process. So for today's presentation, we're going to define change as something that's situational, such as a new job, a new supervisor, a new team, and even a new administration. And we're defining transition as the process that we go through in any given change. And the goal is to find different ways that we can navigate through. So there are 3 phases of transitions. There are the endings, which is the letting go, the neutral, which is the meat of a change and where chaos often happens, and then there are beginnings, the starting over. So we'll start with ending because it's important to become clear on what is ending as a result of the change before we even entertain the beginnings. The very act of transitions involves a loss. So treating the past with respect and acknowledging that. To sort out losses, what is real versus, or what is actual versus maybe what are some of the physical losses. And I'll give an example of that in a moment. To seek some of the information that you need to effectively deal with the change, ask questions, seek clarification, and identify what, if any, are the continuities. What will stay the same? So, for example, some losses may be physical or actual, such as no longer having a window office or a cubicle with a window. Some may experience the subjective part, not being able to see light may be actually very disturbing to them. And this is a way to distinguish between the actual change and the transition. The change is from having a window to not having a window. That external event is out of our control. But the impact of that may mean something completely different. If having natural light is important to you, the process of this transition may be particularly difficult. while if not having natural light in your cubicle or your office is not bothersome to you, this transition will not be difficult at all. When we're undergoing transitions, it's important to have as much information as possible in order to begin to let go and begin to move on. So figure out the facts. What does that mean? Well, during a transition period, oftentimes rumors are abound and overreactions are prominent. You'll hear a lot of things that may or may not be factually accurate. So seek clarification to find out as much truth as possible. Distinguish between your feelings with the current losses and some of the older losses or older changes and transitions that you've been through. Accept and expect to have feelings regarding changes, and these feelings are grieving feelings. It could be anger, it could be sadness, it could be anxiety. You may feel confused or even a little disoriented. And those are all normal and natural feelings. And if you are not particularly experiencing that, you may know someone who is. Of course, there are other folks who relish change and enjoy new changes and transitions, and so this will not be difficult for you at all. The next phase is the neutral zone. We enter a state of affairs where neither the old nor the new ways work satisfactorily. So this is like the meat of the change. This is where you'll feel chaos, there's some confusion as things are ending and things are getting ready to begin. And it's key to find a way to reestablish some control. And that is done by saying, change happens. And while change happens, I also need to give myself some patience while I'm going through this particular change and transition. So another example is when an athlete has a season-ending ankle injury, there's a serious loss of control, as well as the ankle's usual functioning. The athlete can't do what he or she previously did because of the ankle now demands a different type of attention. The athlete has to wait it out and then take different actions to slowly rebuild the strength and balance so they can take different actions. If the athlete ignores this, the injury will delay the healing. By acknowledging and accepting the injury, the athlete can better address the transition process. And over time, care and rest, and of course intentional practice, the ankle heals and the athlete can usually re-engage in the sport, perhaps a little changed, but renewed. And the same is true for us when we start over with a change in which we have no control. Sometimes we have to stop, rest, and assess so our whole system can get adjusted to the change. The neutral zone continued. It's key to use stress management techniques, engaging in self-care, taking care of yourself, eating well, getting enough sleep, using supports, reaching out to friends and family, and even coworkers are all really great ways of managing stress. In addition, relaxation skills are also important. So some really great ways to relax are to spend time with family, spend time with friends, get outside and go to the outdoors, engage in a favorite hobby or get a new hobby, reading, journaling, Doing deep breathing, yoga, music are all great ways of relaxation. Being in the neutral tone zone is a time to rebuild. So now on to beginnings. Turn ideas into actions. Try things a little bit differently and begin in incremental steps towards a longer-term goal. Taking even the smallest actions can lead to a larger accomplishment, which also increases skill building and confidence. William Bridges suggests that there are 4 P's to remember in beginnings. Purpose. All individuals should have a purpose to aid in understanding the change. The next, you should have a picture of what the outcome will look like. A plan or a schedule, and that allows for clarity and to decrease chaos. And a part. Each person should have a part to encourage investment in the outcome. It's important to remember to acknowledge even the smallest of successes and to celebrate them. So managing transitions, skill building, practice and develop the traits of those who handle change really well. Be proactive. Stay focused on the outcome. Be flexible, knowing that things will change and that they can change. Being organized, which also helps decrease some of the chaos that you may be feeling when you're in the neutral zone or even in the beginning zone. And stay positive. While it may be hard, depending on your reaction to a particular change and the transition process, being able to look at a change as an opportunity rather than a crisis is often helpful. So managing transitions and reflecting on your reactions to change. Understanding the transition paradigm. Being mindful of personal attitudes about change. Recognizing that while we really like to have things stay the same, that there may be a need to do something different. To confront our own personal views of change if it's no longer useful for us. And frequently practice change in small steps. And an example of practicing change in small steps may be taking a different way to work, or volunteering to do something different in a workplace situation, either taking minutes for a meeting, changing where you sit in a meeting, are also small ways that can give us a different perspective when we are dealing with change and transition. Also, to be aware of how you're feeling and you're reacting internally and how this transition may be for you. Give yourself credit as you see yourself responding differently to some of the changes that are taking place. And it may not always be easy. Making an effort to improve relationships, your relationship to change, and your own transition process can make a significant difference in all areas of your life. For more information about the stages, the phases that we discussed, the endings, the neutral, or the beginning, you can go to the wmbridges.com or read the book, Managing Transitions, Making the Most of Change. Thank you.